It's time for Lefties Losing It. Just when you think the shrews of The View couldn't sink any lower, they go and surprise you by mocking a cute little child. Apparently, Elon Musk's 4-year-old son, X, is fair game because Whoopi Goldberg has decided to mock his name.
Yesterday, Elon Musk took his son X to a press conference. I did not name the child. And I don't want to hear any more mess about our names, okay? Okay?
Oh.
Anywho, he took little X.
Funny. A little Instagram.
He doesn't own Instagram.
He doesn't own Instagram. He just took little X with him to a press conference in the Oval Office.
You know what? X is an adorable name, and perhaps a grown woman who named herself Whoopi should refrain from mocking a 4-year-old for the name his parents gave him. Yes, Whoopi picked that name for herself. She's actually Karen Elaine Johnson. Now, how did Karen become Whoopi? You're going to love this. According to Goldberg, once I started getting parts in plays, I wanted a name that sounded more interesting. Karen Johnson wasn't it. Some people at the rep called me Whoopi because I would let loose with a fart. Just charming, charming. As for X, well, he seems to have more sense than the ladies of The View. Here he is with his father.
What should I do?
Save America.
And?
Help Trump.
Okay.
Now to more wacky antics from our friends on the left, and sadly these days that includes preachers. Many churches have been corrupted by far-left lunatics, and this one from Tennessee seems to be calling for violence against Elon Musk. Have a listen.
An attempt to take us back to a day that we do not want to go and we will not go. Therefore, there will be conflict. I pray that the peace of God will win out and overcome the madness that is attempting to take over this nation. And I will say to you, beloved, no one likes violence, but sometimes violence is necessary. When Elon Musk forces his way into the United States Treasury and threatens to steal your personal information and your Social Security check, there is the possibility of violence. Sometimes the devil will act so ugly that you have no other choice but to get violent and fight.
Say what now? Sometimes violence is necessary and the devil will act so ugly that you have no other choice but to get violent and fight? That's what he said. I hope Elon Musk considers some legal action because that sounded like he was inciting violence. Now to Canada, where a reverend and LGBT activist is preaching that Christians should stop referring to Jesus as their saviour because it may be offensive to other religions.
There was one word in those bedrock beliefs that began for me to be uncomfortable: problematic. When people now come to our church, many of them will first check the website to see what this church is about, what they believe. And many of the folks who did that would tell me out in the community, Brent, I looked up your church and it sounded reasonable, but when I got to that word Savior, it was a problem. And it was a problem because I'm from another faith tradition. Or it's a problem because I don't believe that everyone has to accept Jesus as personal Lord and Savior like the fundamentalists say.
If you're from another faith or you don't think you should accept Jesus as your Lord and Saviour, then what are you doing in a Christian church? I mean, really? Do you think anyone walks into a mosque and demands they stop being so preoccupied with Muhammad? I don't think so. If activists are running your church, then your church isn't really a church anymore. Now let's check in with possibly the most annoying woman in the world. Yes, even more annoying than MSNBC anchors and the ladies of The View.
If you're going to be a bigot with your whole ass chest. You'll have to forgive me, Pumpkin. My particular flavor of neurospiciness prefers bluntness. They, them isn't a singular pronoun. That you're spouting is wrong, cutie. Ask the APA, MLA, Oxford Dictionary, Merriam-Webster, ChatGPT, Wikipedia, and basically every source on the internet. Sweetie, they're all gonna tell you you're wrong.
I hate to break it to you, sweetie, but just because Wikipedia and other online resources have been corrupted by far-left lunacy doesn't mean you or they are right. It just means the rot is deep. It means the trans activists have managed to exercise disproportionate power in trying to convince folk that, I don't know, day is night, white is black, men are women. But sadly, there are plenty of brainwashed simpletons who have swallowed every argument put forward by the trans activist, and that includes the adult daughter of Tim Walz. You remember him, the man who wanted to be vice president. Here is his daughter ranting about Donald Trump's executive order protecting women's sport from male bodies.
Signing an executive order that pertains to 1% of the population is not protecting women. It's setting a dangerous precedent, and it is dangerous for the trans community, women, minorities, anyone who is not a straight white man. We are talking about human beings, and the President of the United States is targeting them.
Gosh, didn't we dodge a bullet not having that family in the White House, including Gwen Walz? Remember her?
Bye, Donald Trump. We are turning the page.
Terrifying. Instead of her, we got Usha Vance. I mean, can you think of a better upgrade? And talking about dodging bullets, we also dodged having Kamala as president and her family in the White House. Let's check in now with Kamala's adult stepdaughter. And she's spruiking some sort of body oil.
What I did realize about having body hair is someone always has something to say about it, whether it's good or bad. There's something very shocking still about body hair. Most commonly I see, I bet you smell bad, or damn, that's dirty. Little did and do they know I'm as clean as a whistle and heavily moisturized thanks to fur oil. I've been using this heavily in my daily routine for as long as I've had body hair.
And we'll have plenty more Lefties Losing It content with my next guest. Today, the Justice Department announced it was suing New York over its failure to fully cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. Governor Kathy Hochul, State Attorney General Letitia James and DMV Chief Mark Schroeder are all in the firing line. Here is US Attorney General Pam Bondi.
We have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today.
Joining me now is filmmaker and journalist Ami Horowitz. Ami, you're a New Yorker. Why is your state deliberately defying efforts to enforce the law?
It's beyond belief, Rita, okay? I mean, the Democrats have just lost an election, not in small part because of this issue, maybe primarily because of this issue. They haven't learned a single lesson. It's unbelievable to me. They're actually writing the 2026 script for the Republicans and how they should defeat them again, okay? I mean, let's take Brandon Johnson, who is the mayor of Chicago, as a case study on this issue, okay? Brandon Johnson at 14% approval rating. It's a 1-4, Rita. He's the lowest approval rating of any politician in America. He has a lower approval rating than Kendrick Lamar at a Drake family reunion. That's how bad it is for him, okay? Letitia James, right, who Pam Bondi, by the way, love her, talked about right there. Letitia James wrote that our laws protect all New Yorkers. All New Yorkers? I'm sorry. People who have come here illegally are not New Yorkers. They are not one of us. They are illegally in New York. They are draining our resources. They are causing crime, and they're crowding our street with homelessness. And Democrats alike, not just Republicans, Democrats, these blue cities, are sick of it. That's why when you looked at an electoral map, you saw that every single district moved to the right. They may not have all voted for Trump, but they moved to the right. And then Pam Bondi, God bless her soul, God bless her blonde soul. Look, she's now threatening to cut off DOJ funding to these blue cities, which in New York alone got $1.5 billion. And overall, they got over $8 billion. I'm here for it, man. This is what we got to do.
They are not messing around. Like she said, it's a new Justice Department and they're going to be enforcing the law. And you would think New York, of all places, just with the rise in violent crime, the fact that a couple of months ago you had a poor woman burnt to death on the train in the metro by an illegal immigrant, you would think this would focus their minds, but apparently not. Now let's move on to another win for President Trump, with the US Senate confirming Tulsi Gabbard as the Director of National Intelligence. Here is Tulsi being sworn in by Pam Bondi.
I, Tulsi Gabbard, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Former Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell was the only Republican to vote against Tulsi's confirmation, though these days, with his condition, one wonders if someone else is pulling McConnell's strings. Remember this?
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026? All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator Benny.
Yeah, they needed more than a minute. He just frozen there. Ami, tell me what this confirmation means for the Trump administration.
Yeah, by the way, that was not easy to watch even a third or fourth time with Mitch McConnell. Look, it means that Trump has won again. He has got everybody he wants confirmed. It seems that he has got the entire Republican Party in line, backing him. And even his more controversial picks, including RFK and including Tulsi Gabbard, who, to be honest, I wasn't a big fan of hers. I think there were a better choice than her, but it was Trump's choice is where he went. And look, he got it in. My hats are off. That was a difficult confirmation to get over the line, and he did with almost no problem.
Army, the wins keep on coming for the Trump administration. With Russia releasing a US hostage, the White House secured the release of Pennsylvania teacher Mark Fogel, who had been wrongfully detained for almost 4 years in Russia after being arrested with legally prescribed marijuana. Let's hear from Mark Fogel.
I feel like the luckiest man on earth right now. And I want you to know that I am not a hero in this at all. And President Trump is a hero. These men that came from the diplomatic service are heroes.
And earlier today, we heard that negotiations to end the war in Ukraine are set to begin after President Trump had what he called a lengthy and highly productive conversation with Vladimir Putin. Ukrainian President Zelensky has welcomed the push for peace. Now, Ami, what is the timeline for these negotiations? We know Donald Trump said that he could secure peace in record time. And is that achievable after 3 years of war?
Yeah, first of all, it was great to see another American hostage released from the clutches of Putin and Russia. I think that they moved in far more and with alacrity to get him there, as opposed to Biden, which took him years actually to call Mark Fogel wrongfully detained, whereas he moved very quickly to get Briner out and traded for the merchant of death, Victor Bout. As regards to Ukraine, Europe, and the United States, I think what you're seeing here is absolutely fascinating. First of all, it looks like we are going to be moving very, very quickly towards a deal. And you're seeing the Europeans actually fall in line with their rhetoric to align with Trump. You're going to see a lot of that with the Munich Security Conference happening. You're going to see a lot of their rhetoric, in fact, start to mirror and echo what Trump is saying. And what he's basically saying is, guys, we have to have a deal here. This can't go on forever. Russia, you're not going to take Kiev. And Ukraine, you're not going to take back Donbass and Crimea. That's the deal. And that's the deal that's going to be made, I think. And I think hopefully also throw in, I think it's important for us not to include Ukraine in NATO. I've been against that from the beginning. I'm still against it now, and I think so is Trump. And I think the sad part of this is that we all knew this is where it was going years ago. Yet it's still Ukraine had to, to expend blood and treasure to essentially be at the same place where it would have been 3 years ago. I think also what has been talked about, and I think is great, is Trump is saying, look, we have been funding Ukraine for years, rightly so. At the same time, hey, Europe, you have to pay more money, right? You are in their crosshairs. You are on the same continent as Russia. You have a responsibility. And in fact, he's gotten to do that. Moreover, I'm also glad to see they're telling Ukraine, this is not cost-free. Like, we are funding you guys, but essentially we want to be paid back. I think the idea of us making a deal for the important mineral resources and to buy them from Ukraine, I think is great. I think it's important. I think this can't be cost-free. And I think ultimately that's what a deal's going to look like. And, I don't know if he's going to win the Nobel Peace Prize for this. He didn't last term when he should have, when he brokered the Abraham Accords, which was like low-key one of the greatest foreign policy accomplishments in the last 50 years. Didn't win it for that. Let's see if they pass him over now for your Ukraine deal.
Well, he's also got the deadline for Hamas to release all the hostages. That's fast approaching, Army. President Trump said he wants them all released by midday Saturday, or all hell will break loose. What's the latest on that? And are we days away from the ceasefire ending?
Look, time will tell. Israel was pretty confident that the ceasefire was actually going to hold. I'm having my doubts, and so are many Israelis. Look, I think Hamas has made the decision, and they said, they gave up the hostages quickly, the first tranche of them, because they were relatively healthy looking. The hostages were held in different places, were treated differently. I think this next tranche of hostages, I think one will see that they were tortured and scarred and starved. And I think it's not a good look for Hamas. When you have Jews looking like they're Holocaust survivors. I'm sorry to say that, but that's what we're facing. And Hamas doesn't want to have that blowback. I think it's important to note the difference between the rhetoric of the Trump administration versus what the rhetoric of the Biden administration has been in the past. Trump is telling Israel, you do what you got to do. You have free reign. This is your decision to make. No doubt that if Biden was president, he would force Israel to keep the terms of the ceasefire, even though Hamas has violated it. We know this because he's done it in the past. He cajoled, and he pushed, and he threatened, and he embargoed Israel for defending herself. So I think that Israel finds itself in an enviable position where it can make its own foreign policy decisions and decide how it wants to treat its neighbor in a time of war. I think Israel is benefiting from that for sure.
And we saw the Jordanian king at the White House earlier this week. It's clear that President Trump wants those countries to do more. Jordan, Egypt, Lebanon, perhaps. He wants them to pull their weight and not have the West carrying the weight of this crisis. How do you see that progressing? Do you see those countries taking in Palestinian refugees, resettling them, or are they going to continue to refuse to do that?
No, I don't see them taking them in. Look, I think they know what they got themselves into when they took in Palestinian refugees the first time around. Palestinians are particularly radical. They have radicalized the population of the country that they've entered. They've caused tremendous amount of issues and problems and angst for those countries. So I don't think they're looking to take in more radical Hamas Palestinians into their country. Look, I think Trump has a certain amount of leverage with them, but I think they're going to hold true to that. I think he has more leverage to say to the Arab world, look, you guys have to finance reconstruction of Gaza. That shouldn't be on the shoulders of the United States and Europe. That really, this is your region, your area. You need to shoulder that load. But I think ultimately, look, I think the Palestinians are going to remember this war, this campaign for generations. I think they hopefully have come to the realization that when you spill Jewish blood, there are real prices and consequences for those actions. And hopefully we'll have a better and more stable Middle East because of it.
I fear that lesson is not going to be learned, but I think the normalisation of relationships in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia and Israel, for example, if that comes in the next few months or even in Trump's second term, that will have an enormous difference because it just shifts the entire understanding of how that region works. For so long we were told that until the Palestinians have statehood, you can never have relationships normalised in that region. And Trump with the Abraham Accords show that that was a fallacy. So it's going to be fascinating to observe. Just before you go, I want to ask you about the World Health Organization. Donald Trump's withdrawn from it. Argentina is set to follow. And the WHO chief is now panicking, is pleading with other countries to help get the US to reconsider. How do you see this resolving? Are we going to see the World Health Organization reformed or just more countries leaving?
Yeah, you know, I'm sorry, World Health Organization. Maybe you shouldn't have partnered with China in hiding the coronavirus. Maybe you would have a little more credibility on the world stage, and particularly the United States. Are they going to reform themselves? That's not the DNA of the United Nations and its organizations. Reform is not what they do. Look, Argentina, love it. Milei, my spirit animal, following Trump's lead. I'm all down for it. I hope more countries will follow suit. There has to be a price to pay for these organizations. They can't simply continue doing the same actions that are harming the United States, harming the world, and continue to say, we're going to get more money from you. It doesn't work that way. We have to use the leverage we do. The leverage we have is economic. I'm glad we're doing it. Hopefully we'll make a change.
Ami Horowitz, thank you so much for your time.